Hello there. Hi. Did y'all enjoy Whiplash? All right. So excited that we have him here today. He's just a great actor. You've seen him in so many movies, from Thank You for Smoking and of course Juno and Spider-Man movies and Up in the Air. On television he was a mean son of a bitch in Oz, if you saw that show. And if you thought he was mean in this movie, huh? Recently Growing Up Fisher and so many movies. I can't even begin to name them all. And then this one, for which, and I just did a count before I came out here. I did a little bit of a count, and I think so far he's won 17 awards from critics groups around the country for this award, and it's still growing, that list. And he's been nominated for the Golden Globe, the SAG Award, the Critics' Choice Movie Award, and on and on and on. Please welcome J.K. Simmons. Well, wow, what a list when I look at all of this love that's coming your way for this role, JK. Did you have any idea when you came into this, and it was obviously a very small film, I think, when it started, right?
No, I never have any idea about anything related to how show business works. I just read the script and knew I had to do it.
Is that right?
Yeah, and here we are, you know, reaping these kind of benefits, which is great.
Yeah, I have to think that it's almost a solid year ago when this picture debuted at the Sundance Film Festival and won the big prize at Sundance and took kind of the business by storm. People weren't expecting it, and suddenly there it was. What was it about the script that made you want to play this role?
It honestly, it sounds simplistic or disingenuous or something. It was just everything about the script. It was such a thorough script, and I wish Damien was here, because
Damien Chazelle,
the writer-director, because he's a child. And it's so remarkable that you know, when you look at him and see and you know, having seen the film, or in my case reading the script and seeing the level of maturity and brilliance in it. It really was such a thorough, complete piece of work, and the characters just leapt off the page, and that was all I needed.
Wow, it actually was a short film at first, right? He had done this as a short subject, basically.
Yeah, well, he had written it as a feature, and then when Jason Reitman and Helen Estabrook and Cooper Samuelson became involved, you know, trying to get it produced, they were, and Damien tells this story much better than I do, but you know, he was shocked that nobody wanted to give him millions of dollars to make a movie about a jazz drummer. So really, as a sort of proof of concept to generate funding for the feature, he distilled the first scene in Studio Band, where Andrew comes in and the chair is thrown and all that stuff happens. That was the short film, which went to Sundance 2 years ago, and won awards, and you know, got the interest going and the funding to make the feature. So it was originally a feature, and then a short, and then a feature again.
Wow! And how long did you have to shoot this film? It was.
I love this. 19 days.
Oh, see that response.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, because people who understand film. I mean, 19 days for that film. And again, it's such a testament to... I'll accept that applause on Damien's behalf, because that's he was so impeccably prepared, had everything storyboarded. Damien himself is a musician. The film is somewhat autobiographical. So he knew going in exactly where, you know, in this 2 measures of Caravan, I'm going to be on the trumpet section, and so we didn't have to waste time covering everybody all the time, because he already had a very thorough idea of exactly where he was going with everything, which is the only way I think you could have accomplished a film like this in 19 days.
But as an actor, you know, just to have 19 days of shooting, did you have a rehearsal process? Because the relationship you have with Miles Teller, who's just brilliant in this movie, I would imagine you would have had to have some level of time to rehearse it and develop that.
None. And again, this is, you know, I think this is something I've always said about Jason Reitman's movies, and not only because he cast me in all of them, but you know, directing, casting is such a huge part of directing. And I actually have Jason and Helen to thank for suggesting me to Damien for this part. Damien wrote the movie with Miles in mind, not knowing that Miles has played drums since he was 15 years old. That was, you know, luck or kismet or whatever you want to call it. And once I was suggested to play Fletcher, Damien thought that was a good idea, and we met and decided to do it. And the fact that Miles and I just connected and clicked and had the kind of chemistry that we had was, again, it just happened. It was just fortunate.
Wow. I have to say, you in this movie...
Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back, because it's not just fortunate, it's because Miles is a truly wonderful young actor who's going about it the right way, and although not always in the press, but as an actor is really serious and smart and dedicated and wants to be the best actor he can be, and coincidentally he's going to be a big stinky movie star, but he's you know, he's a wonderful actor and a guy that really is available to connect with as an actor.
I have to say though that you in this role of Fletcher, he is every horrible teacher I ever had, all rolled into one and then beyond. I mean, he's like something. How do you prepare in your mind to play a character like this and know how far to go?
Well, again, I wish I had smarter answers to these questions. Honestly, it was just a guy that Damien wrote, and based on a real guy, but I was completely uninterested in who that real guy was, because that's not the guy I was playing, you know. But it's based on a teacher that Damien worked with, a conductor. I just saw it all on the page and brought it off, and then Miles and I bounced it off of each other, and it just I don't want to make it seem too mystical and magical and all, but I mean, it was really just all there, and I felt like, you know, people talk about actors as creative artists, and I think of us more as a sort of a conduit or an interpretive artist, you know, bringing great writing to life, and this was great writing that was not easy, but clear. It was clear what my task was, and it really didn't take much preparation as an actor, other than the real preparation was musical. For me, was learning all those scores, which were very complex, and being able to actually conduct and play my little piano ditty and feel musically competent to be this guy.
You do have a musical background. You came into it with that. Did Damien even know that when he met with you?
No, that was another total stroke of good fortune, or you know, meant to be. Because when I first met Damien, we sat down for lunch, and I had read the script, and I knew I wanted to do it, and he knew he wanted me to do it, but we had to do the little dance, you know. And one of the first things he said was, I don't want you to be concerned about, be intimidated by the musical aspects of the film. He said, we'll have a technical advisor, he can show you the basics of conducting, and he said we can use body doubles and you know, for some of the musical stuff, and if we have to fake the piano thing, you know, we can do, you know, obviously there's ways to fake your piano playing, and I said, well, you know, I studied music in college. I have a degree in conducting and singing. And it was like he had no idea. Just as he had no idea that Miles was a drummer. So I mean, it was.
When you say fake, you two were.
I'm not kidding around.
You two were fated to play. I wonder too, in the vocal, you know, you with your training as an actor and long career as an actor, but this role seems like it would be a vocal challenge too. Was it a problem at any point in shooting in such a condensed time period?
Yeah, because this really was a case where, I mean, I spent 20 years doing theater before I, you know, was a camera actor, and, you know, know how to use my voice, and I was a singer as well. And you know, with a film like this, when you're here or here or you know, the technique was just out the window. So there was no sort of protecting my voice. You know, I was just screaming and totally losing my mind. And again, Damien, another, you know, wise beyond his years, you know, he and the first AD put together a schedule where I never, you know, when I had a screaming, you know, scene, then I would have a couple days of no screaming scenes, you know, so I could get, because literally if we shot all those screaming things, you know, day 3 of the shoot, I would have been no good for a week, you know, we would have had to ADR half the movie.
Yeah, so it was okay though?
Yeah, it was just, you know, sort of tear it raw, and then you know, lemon and honey and tea and, you know, Ricola and Fisherman's Friend and lots of water and a few days of rest and come back to it. You know, I think I can't remember now because I actually haven't watched the film all the way through for a while. But there is one scene where I can hear that my voice, you know, was a little torn up from having screamed that morning or the previous day.
It's such an interesting movie that's provoked many a conversation after people have seen it ever since it premiered at Sundance as to the question of whether he was good for him, whether he drove him to that kind of talent, or whether he was way over the top and not good. How do you look at what Fletcher's method was and what this film says about that?
This was the other main thing that Damien and I talked about that first day, because the way that the script ends, I wanted, very much to me, the story that I wanted to be a part of was one that had that ambiguity that inspired that debate, that, you know, how far is too far, you know, at what price glory, and is this kid, you know, off, you know, realizing his dreams, and is this a happy ending, or is this tragic? And literally, I hate using that word. One of the overused words of my children's generation. I've seen the film all the way through only 4 times now, and the 4th time I saw it, I found myself weeping and weeping at the tragedy that the whole story struck me as that time through. That what Andrew Fletcher's life was or Andrew Neiman's life was going to be, you know, after this, that he had his loss of innocence, you know, and his sacrifice and this sort of Faustian deal with the devil, you know, which is certainly a way that the film can be viewed. And I think if people, you know, watch it multiple times, it wouldn't surprise me if you would have a reaction very different from the one that you had today.
Which is the mark of a great film. I mean, it's really, you know, the complexity of it is there, and I've seen it more than once, and you really can see different things in it, which is what's, I think, fun about it as well, to see this film on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Talk about playing characters like this. Oz, I mentioned, you know, now that guy was mean.
Well, he killed people and stuff. So
I know.
Even meaner than, he wasn't just yelling at people.
No. Do you enjoy doing those kind of roles? Is that fun for you?
Yeah, it's great. What I honestly enjoy is doing something different than whatever it was I just got done doing, you know. And I like, obviously, especially the longer you go, you know, you're repeating yourself in many ways. But I like to. I like to find a different challenge and play a different kind of part, and that's what my quest is now, because the Whiplash effect, as my agent and I and my family and I are calling it, is you know, there are a lot of really wonderful opportunities coming my way now for bigger parts, and I want to make sure that, you know, I'm not playing, you know, Fletcher light in my next movie. I'm looking to do something different. But I do love playing bad guys. I mean, there's not that Fletcher's a bad guy, because they're
complicated.
He's complicated. Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, you do, and you are getting a lot of those much bigger opportunities. I've called you always a journeyman actor. You're a guy that's always acted, always done great stuff. We always know you from a lot of things, but now you're, as you said, this effect has taken you to a different level in the kinds of roles you're being offered, or the kinds of opportunities you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely, and sort of being brought on board earlier along in a project, you know, and helping to develop scripts and have a little input in that way too, which is great. And now the battle is to be able to do enough work that I think I will enjoy and find fulfilling and you know make some money. There's nothing wrong with that. And balance that with the time away from my family, and you know, God forbid people make movies in L.A. Although Whiplash, 19 days in L.A. L.A. is something for New York. Yeah. We did 1 day of guerrilla style exterior shoot in New York, like 3 guys in a van, you know, no permits kind of stuff. All of my stuff was cut, but there was all the stuff that you see of Miles walking on the street, and obviously in front of Carnegie Hall, and all that stuff was actually, you know, Damien wanted to get at least a little bit of, you know, honest New York feel, so that we did do.
It's great too that you can develop relationships as you go along. You mentioned Jason Reitman, and you have been in pretty much all of Jason Reitman's movies.
Technically all of them, because I did a in young adult, where he said, everyone thinks you're going to play the dad, but he said, I just can't do that after Juno and blah, blah, blah. But I did a voice on the phone. I played Mavis's agent or editor or publisher or something.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you are the little Hitchcock moment there,
exactly,
that you got yourself in the film. Yeah. How do you develop a relationship? Because everybody, of course, loves you, remembers you from Juno, which was such a fantastic movie, and you were wonderful in that too. And how did you develop that relationship with Jason to be in all of his movies?
Well, it started with Thank You for Smoking was his first feature, and we, you know, I just had an appointment to meet with him and audition, or I thought audition, and it was, I live in, well, at the time I was living sort of in the Hollywood Hills, and the meeting was way over in Santa Monica by the ocean, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, Santa Monica, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I get there, and you know, he's running late, and blah, blah, blah. It's one of those little bungalows, it's hard to find. There's all this little minutia that was sort of a pain in my butt, and I'd been waiting like an hour, and he wasn't there, and I was going out to my car, and as I was heading out to the car to either plug the meter or to say screw it, get in the car and go, I was having that internal debate, and this young guy comes around, oh, JK, some sort of a greeting that made me think he was just some random dude, you know, a fan or something, you know. And I go, yeah, hi, you know. And I'm literally standing at the meter trying to decide where they're plugging it. And I'm so sorry, I'm late. I'm Jason. And I go, oh yeah, nice to meet you. He goes, please. He goes, I hope you're not leaving, you know. So I stayed. We went in, and I don't even remember if he had me read or not, but we were talking about the part in the movie. And I don't know if people have seen Thank You for Smoking, but it's a wonderful film. And I think, you know, obviously really put Jason on the map, and then Juno, you know, his stock skyrocketed after that. But I kind of think it's an underappreciated movie, or an underviewed movie, maybe. Thank You for Smoking. We talked about the character, and he voiced a concern that, he said, you know, I actually was, as I was writing this, I had you in mind for it. And that's the first time I'd ever heard anybody say that. And he said, but then, you know, he said that, you know, I gotta admit, I'm a little concerned because, you know, the part is this gruff boss, and, you know, the Spider-Man movies, and that character has become so iconic. He said, I don't know, you know, I mean, how are we going to differentiate this character, you know, from the character that people know you as, from Spider-Man? And just because I'm a smartass, I just said, well, what if he just doesn't have a flat top wig and chomp on a cigar? And he said, oh, well, yeah, okay. I guess we could probably pull it off. And as we were doing that film, we really, we just got to be pals, despite the fact that I'm like his father's age. We settled very much into a sort of a peer relationship, much as I did with Damien and Miles on this movie. And in a way, with Jason, almost a reverse sort of mentor-protege thing, because he grew up in the business, you know, and is so knowledgeable about every aspect of show business and the creative aspect of filmmaking. And I'm just a guy who started doing summer stock in Montana when I was in college because of the chicks, and sort of stumbled along from one thing into another. And I'm not really a film buff or by any means a show business aficionado. So he's really become a guy that I go to for counsel and advice and wisdom about films, again, both creatively and business-wise, and it's turned into a great friendship and a great relationship. He's actually going to introduce me later tonight at the festival awards thing.
Yeah, I want to mention that. I mentioned a long list of awards you're getting, and you're flying to New York after this to get the New York Film Critics Award for Best Supporting Actor of the Year on Monday, and a lot of those, yes. But you're here in Palm Springs for this, and then tonight the big gala, and it is a big gala, and you're getting you're one of the big honorees tonight. How does that feel to come out here and do that?
Yeah, it feels all right. Yes, it's the Spotlight Award, and there are a number of wonderful actors who, as I was leaving the hotel on my way to come here, I crossed paths with Michael Keaton and Reese Witherspoon, who were checking into the hotel, and we'll all be at this event tonight. And that, to me, is the most fun about this whole sort of circuit. The awards season, as it's become known, is getting a chance to meet a lot of people. I mean, Michael and I did a little part in a movie of his years ago. I did a little part in a movie with Reese years ago, so some of them I've met briefly, and many of them I haven't, and getting to hang out and rub elbows with a lot of actors that I respect and admire, and that's really the most fun for me.
That's so much fun. I'm going to have the audience ask some questions in a second, but something you said, I just got to know the answer to this. So I was going to ask you about how you started in the business, but you just sort of told us it was in summer stock to get women, basically. Is that really true? That's what you thought, to become an actor? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And look what's happened.
Well, I got a woman. I have a lovely wife. Actually, we met doing a Broadway musical. My wife and I met on a Broadway revival of Peter Pan, starring Kathy Rigby as Peter Pan. And I was Captain Hook, and my wife was Tiger Lily. And here we are. That was, we met in 1991. And yeah, now we're married 18 years with 2 kids, and so my master plan worked.
And you found as you went along that you just liked it, or that it was something, because you had a hell of a career before you started movies, before we started seeing you in television and movies on the stage.
Yeah, yeah, and it was, the first 7 or 8 or 9 years of that was all regional theater all over the country. I was based out of Seattle for a few years, and then moved to New York because there was a musical that I had done about Charlie Russell, who was a Montana guy, a painter, that was going to go to Broadway, and we were all going to be stars and rich and famous. And I moved to New York, and that of course fizzled, and spent several years in New York, bouncing around doing regional theater everywhere but New York, and then did 5 years on Broadway, and 5 different shows, Guys and Dolls, and Peter Pan, and Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and Neil Simon play. I did the play A Few Good Men before, obviously well before the movie, when Aaron Sorkin was just some kid from Scarsdale. And yeah, and then started doing film and television.
What do you like better? Theater, movies, TV?
Well, when I decided to do, I made a conscious decision. I was doing a Neil Simon play, Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and a lot of the cast were people who also did a fair amount of film and television. Mark Linn-Baker and John Slattery and Nathan Lane, and all of whom I get to see this week. I'm going to be in New York for my birthday, and I'm going to get together with a bunch of old New York pals that I don't get to see very often. And what was the question?
It was just, what did you prefer? I mean, you.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I knew nothing but the stage. When I started doing this, I had no concept that I would ever live in LA or New York, be in front of a camera for a living, be on Broadway. You know, I mean, I thought, you know, if I could teach middle school and do summer stock the rest of my life, that would be great, because I just loved the outlet, the creativity, the you know, the audience interaction, the you know, the whole drama of being an actor. And after 20 years, or almost 20 years of only stage work, it began to feel on Broadway like a little bit of an assembly line, you know, doing the same show 8 times a week. You're in a long run, a big hit, which is sort of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for a theater actor, but it's also, you know, it gets tedious doing the same thing all the time. And these other actors that I was working with, you know, they had little TV things on the side, or they were auditioning for a film, or this or that, or something else to look forward to, and they got paid to walk out to the mailbox and get a residual check from a TV show once in a while. So that had a certain appeal too. So when Laughter on the 23rd Floor was, we took it on tour, and at the end of that I told my agent, I just can't do another play right now. I have a little money in the bank, and I'm going to hold out and try and get a film and TV career going. And Law and Order and Oz came along relatively soon after that, and it's really been 2 different careers, and I loved all those years of doing theater, and it's been obviously a very rewarding career doing film and television. Now I have a feeling that when my youngest is off at college or away from home, and my lifestyle, you know, and it's just my wife and myself, that, you know, we might both end up back on stage, you know, in our octogenarian years.
Play the gin game.
Yeah, we'll do the Palm Springs Follies.
Ah, it just closed, I heard.
I didn't see it this year, but she's a dancer too, actually, my wife.
Okay. Hey, you guys have any questions? We got a couple of minutes for questions. Yeah, right there. Yeah, go. Yes, sir. That's you.
So when Rich was notorious for berating his band, there are audio tapes of him yelling at the band on the tour bus at Long. I saw him once actually in a live show doing the same to a bass player, kind of like a cowbell bit.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear any of those? Did any of that go?
Buddy Rich, he's asking about what's sort of notorious for having a temper, I guess.
I don't remember if it was before we were shooting or after or during, but Damien did play me the famous bus tirade, the Buddy Rich bus tirade. Buddy Rich to me was just a guy that I would watch on Johnny Carson, who was just a fun, lively guy who played the drums really fast. So I didn't know anything about that. I do have a musical background, but I'm not a jazz aficionado at all. So all of those kinds of stories about Charlie Parker and Joe Jones and Buddy Rich, you know, were all new to me when as a part of this experience.
Yes, ma'am, right there.
I was interested in your feelings about the ambiguity, whether he was a good teacher or not a good teacher after 4 viewings, and I'm wondering if you talked to Damien much about it, since it was based on his experience, how he felt about that?
Well, again, I didn't want to talk a lot about Damien's real experience, because I was creating this fictional character, and once Damien and I had the discussion, and we were exactly on the same page about, you know, not wanting to dictate to an audience, this is how we want you to feel, this guy's good, this guy's bad, you know, or whatever. Once we really had that discussion, I just kind of took the ball that he gave me and ran with it, and Miles and I, and you know, Paul and Melissa, I mean, all the rest of the cast who are wonderful. Yeah, it was just see the work, do the work at that point. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right there. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned early on that when you first read the script, you could tell how excellent it was, and we can see that in the movie from the relationship between the characters and the dialogue. But one of the key features of the film seems to be its ability to represent the music. Did that come across in the script when you read it in the first way? Can you talk about how it might have done so?
Well, Not as much, because again, I didn't know the tune Whiplash. I mean, I didn't know Caravan, and obviously I didn't know the amazing music that was going to be written by Tim Simonek and Justin Hurwitz, who wrote the original music for the film. And I wish they were getting the kind of awards attention that I am, because obviously the music is stunning. No, that was something that sort of, you know, as I began, first of all, to look at this. Once I was signed up to do this, you know, and the production office was up and running, I said, as soon as possible. This is all, you know, my agent talks to their, you know, blah blah blah. So there are 6 middlemen. I said, I want to get the music as soon as possible. And then a couple of days later, they send me some MP3s, and I said, no, I want the music on the page, because, you know, this is part of the skill set I'm bringing, is that I know what I'm doing there. So once that process started, then I began to understand how exciting it was, just purely on a musical level, and how genius these charts were. And then the fact that when we were shooting it, we were in the room. 95% of the guys you see up there, and I say guys advisedly because it's a very chauvinistic world, big band jazz, which is accurately presented in the film. Almost everybody up there is playing. And it's very unusual for a music film. We were making music every take, you know? I mean, there was a click track, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then we were playing. And sometimes we were playing with playback, sometimes without playback, and obviously it was all sweetened in the mix musically. But the musical aspect of the experience was thrilling. It was like being in a cowboy movie or a baseball movie, or you know, those kinds of things where you get to live out those dreams that you had as a younger person.
Cool. Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, that final scene, as we all witnessed, was one of the most amazing scenes I think I've ever seen in cinematic history. It was just so intense. My question to you, though, how many takes did that take?
How many takes in the scene, yeah.
Yeah, and that, again, kudos to Damien and Tom Cross, the editor, for brilliantly assembling the whole movie, but especially the last 10 minutes. And that, again, that's why Damien was going into rooms, meeting with people, you know, and they were going, yeah, we're not going to finance a movie that ends with a 12-minute drum solo. That's just not going to happen. Now I've forgotten exactly what your specific question was. Oh, how many takes? Well, that was more than most of the film. The beauty of most of the film, most of the like real acting scenes, you know, that Miles and I had was, you know, we just knocked them out, and there wasn't a lot of unnecessary coverage. It was, you know, we were either in your face or not, and we didn't have a lot of takes. We didn't have time. There was no time and money. But Damien had sort of banked everything because he knew that sequence, you know, needed to be. He needed to have a lot of options in terms of being able to put that together. So there were many takes, and that was really the only part of the film where we were specifically playing the music, obviously that you see us playing, but there were parts of that film where he was like, you know, I apologize, I just need to get, you know, I don't know where this is going to go in the film, but I need to see you, you know, responding to this from Miles, and the same to Miles, you know, back and forth. So that was the most sort of you know, chopped up kind of sequence that we had as we were shooting it, and consequently the one that you don't know until you see the film how effective it can be, you know.
Great edit.
And I mean, I was the first time I saw the film, I was completely blown away. I mean, as I think the response that we heard here today from you is to end a film like this, like right at the climax, and go, "We're done." you know, denouements for sissies. We don't need that.
I should say too that the ACE Cinema Editors, a big editing guild, nominated Whiplash this week for best editing in motion picture this year.
I did not know that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, great.
We got time for one or two more, but we'll take you right there because you've had your hand up. Yes.
The name call, was that like all ad-lib?
The name calling, she wants to know, is that all ad-lib?
This is where I should just scream epithets at you. the appropriate response. Well, that was part of the beauty of Damien as a young director that you don't necessarily expect. First of all, his writing was very thorough and very specific, and the majority of that, the vast majority of the horrible obscenities I spewed are from the twisted mind of Damien Chazelle. But at the same time, he wasn't too precious with his words, and he wasn't, he had the self-confidence and the generosity to allow us room to move within that. So there are a few where I threw in my own hideous monikers.
Okay, last question right there. Yes, sir.
So there's a moment right after Andrew gets hit by the truck that he comes in covered in blood, and you have this incredible look on your face. What do you think Fletcher was thinking about Andrew at that moment?
That's honestly the one moment in the film where I was, as we were shooting it, I disagreed with Damien, because I thought, because when we were first shooting it, he was more messed up. I mean, like he was a zombie, and I just I couldn't wrap my brain around how would we continue, And then we talked and we went back and forth, and they cleaned him up a little bit, and I personally still, as we were shooting the film, disagreed with that. I was like, I would stop. I mean, it was. I think we're running the risk of going too far here. Having said that, every time I had a minor quibble with Damien during the making of the film or during the editing of the film, every time there was something that he and I were not exactly on the same page with, I look at the finished film and go, oh, wow, yeah. I guess he was right. and in that moment, I think the stakes have gotten to that point that that Damien, as a filmmaker, has earned that the stakes are that high, and that he's put me in this position of, I think it's twofold. He's put me in the position of either sort of embarrassing myself and my band in this sort of formal setting of a jury competition, and also there's that aspect of I'm trying to instill or bring out what I perceive as potential greatness in him, and there's this sort of interesting feeling on Fletcher's part that, wow, there's obviously some serious shit going on here with this guy, but this is going to be a test for him, and let's see if he can pull it off. Much the way that again happens at the end of the movie, but that's a long sort of semi-non-answer to your question.
I'm so glad that all those years ago you decided to chase chicks and got an acting career, because look what we have. And thanks for talking pictures with J.K. Simmons.